This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm Neil Asbury, together with co-host and partner, Dr. Rich Rothman. Rich, we got an incredible show today. So much going on. I'm all jazzed up. I just got back from Colorado. By the way, we have a new station that's joining us that we're going to be talking about here just in a moment.
No, it's in Colorado.
In Colorado.
I know.
That's exactly, in Canyon City. Canyon City is a beautiful place. That's where the Royal Gorge runs through there. The best whitewater trip in the world is the Royal Gorge, and that's Canyon City, Colorado.
Well, I used to go to Aspen in the summer to do that, just FYI.
Yeah, but the
just
Royal
outside
Gorge,
of Aspen.
The Royal
Gorge is it, though.
Is absolutely it when it comes to whitewater.
Yeah, well, I also went there with my first wife, so we can have that conversation later. We can do group on that if you want.
Well, maybe
cost me a little money.
Maybe something you want to forget about.
Yeah.
Well, see, that was your first mistake. You went to Aspen with all the hootie snooties, you see.
No, I like
You got to hang out with me with this blue-collar type towns. That's where I go.
Neil, two different psychologies. I used to go there skiing. I used to ski at Snowmass a lot. And I would stay at the Hotel Jerome, which was an hysterical. It reminded me of being in college. It was just an incredible. I walked in there one day. There was a horse in the bar. They were feeding the horse at the bar. That tells you, and that's where I first showed up. So it was outrageous out there. And in the summertime, it's a whole different psychology because it's wet water stuff, just like you're talking about.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Colorado is an incredible state. Incredible state.
I like Wyoming more, but I like Colorado.
But anyway, we got a great show today. There's just so much going on. And when we talk about the world of entrepreneurialism and small business, really, Rich, it's our entrepreneurs that are the first responders to any economic crisis. And we have an economic crisis right now.
Yeah.
I mean, with what's going on in inflation, what's going on in supply chains, just overall, the psychology of the American people right now, I mean, they're worried. They're concerned. I mean, you see it in every poll. I mean, the direction of the country. I mean, there's like not even the hardcore progressive Democrats, socialists, communists, whatever you call them. They're even jumping ship right now. But it's funny because they're saying we're just not progressive enough. We just got to go further.
Well, you know what it is.
What a bunch of bunk.
You can see, listen, you can go down to the grocery store. In South Florida, it's Publix is the big one. And you can see people on edge. People are on edge. People are worried. They're concerned. When they go to the gas station, which we'll talk about later, they're putting in their mortgage payment if you're filling up a truck. It's a lot of money. And people are really wondering, how are we going to survive another 2.5, 3 years, 4 years until there's another inauguration? So, yeah, we're in a very, very uncharted territory right now.
I think we're going to survive because there's going to be a midterm election. And politics as we know it is going to be turned on its head. But we have an incredible guest today, does incredible things, a big-time media person, but's also had in very important positions in corporate America, the former chief marketing officer at Kodak. He's on the board of directors of DocuSign. I use that.
Everyone uses DocuSign.
I mean, it's incredible. I love DocuSign. It just makes my life so easy because I hate to, have to mail things. This is an amazing technology.
I had to learn how to use it, though. I just have to tell you that.
Well, it took a couple of
exactly.
tries here
I had to
and
figure
there,
this out because I was not signing. And then once I figured it out, it signed. That yellow popped up. And it was
that's
great.
Beautiful. And if you miss something, and I always miss something, then it tells you that.
It tells you.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But we're proud to have on with us right now the chairman of C-Suite Network, Jeffery Hayzlett. Jeffrey, welcome to Made in America.
Hey, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. It's just great to see the lead up to this, what we'll be talking about. When COVID first broke, I remember on March 13th, Friday the 13th was kind of like D-Day. The day they shut down Disney World, and when they shut down Disney World, stuff just got serious, and they did that.
Well, you never mess with the mouse. Wait a minute, Jeffrey, you never mess with the mouse in Florida. That's a serious thing.
Yeah, I was in Orlando, and when they did that, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be serious. This is pretty rough." And in that weekend, everybody started complaining and whining and crying, and I said, "Look, everybody's talking about how are we going to survive," and I said, "We're not going to survive. We got to drive and thrive." I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse, just like neither are you. But I am a business first responder. You said that earlier. that's what we have to do. And so, days were going to become weeks, weeks become months, months became years. But I couldn't sew a mask. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a nurse. But, at least I could get people back to work and keep them to work as much as possible. And a lot of American businesses did that.
And that's true. I mean, Rich, it is our entrepreneurs that, has been always the backbone of our economy. And what they've been able to do through COVID and, still come out of COVID. I mean, think about it. I mean, the banks and the lenders and everybody running for the hills, calling in credit lines, all of this kind of stuff. The government regulation and what was going on with regulation. I mean, incredible. Shutting restaurants down in gyms and everything else, but letting the big corporates in America stand tall and do whatever the hell they want. I mean, they just took it on the chin.
Well, you know what? And I really want Jeffrey at some point to address this. I think one of the saddest moments in that whole scenario, Jeff, is when someone has been told you're unessential, you're non-essential. This guy's essential, you're non-essential. Now, you tell that
Walmart's
to somebody.
Essential, Costco's essential.
You tell that to somebody who's been in business for 30 years. It's a family-owned business. It's been a couple of generations. And you tell them you're non-essential. You can no longer make an income. You're going to lose your job. Well, you're going to lose your job because you're going to lose your store. You're going to lose your business. You're going to lose the service. And then you got to go home and explain to your family why you're not going to keep the house or why you're not going to put food on the table. To me, Jeff, and this is where the heroes come in, and I really believe they're heroes. So I think, your book, The Hero Factor, is right on target, that it took people to handhold other people to let them know it's going to be okay. Because to me, the saddest thing you can tell somebody is that you're just not important. Jeff?
Yeah, I tell you, I had a friend of mine and one of our members of the C-Suite Network. She opened a restaurant on Friday the 13th that day. Boom. I mean, imagine what that was like. I mean, you just poured your heart and soul and your entire bank account, life savings into it. And now she made it, let me tell you. But there are a lot of businesses that didn't. There were some businesses that thrived. We all know that. They changed, they pivoted. I was looking at the abyss as well. I mean, we had gone and done over 100 networking events, live in person, and now all that's gone. A big conference I didn't get a refund back on, $300,000 down the tube. Didn't get PPP. A lot of folks didn't get that, but we did what we had to do, and we came together, and a lot of businesses were very successful that way in doing it. And whether it was a pat in the back or sometimes a hug from another business owner, because we needed some of those things. But we also needed people who stood up and said, I don't care if you think I'm non-essential, I'm going in anyway. And they did it, and they made it work. And in the end, a lot of businesses are going to be better for it. A lot of businesses took it in the chin. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of businesses are going to be better for it.
Well, I think what you saw in that whole scenario, particularly when the governments, and I say that because it was local and then state and then it was, on a federal level, is that you found out what Americans are all about. And I really mean that. For example, when you think about the guys who were in New Jersey who had the gym and they completely took on, the governor, Neil, and they just said, you know what? Hey, I'm doing what I have to do. I'm doing everything right. And I'm not as big as Jeff Bezos, obviously, but I'm not going to go out of business. And this guy took it on the chin for half a year to a year.
And Rich, I mean, we had the lady on from Oregon who had a gym, and she was shamed out of Oregon and had to leave the state because she said she wanted to stay open and was staying open. But the governor made her the boogie woman. Her family and her whole family was ostracized and was hassled, and to the point that they had to pick up and move. I mean, and we've seen this with a lot of entrepreneurs from around the country. Just wanting to survive, and to have their place at the seat in the table of the American dream. Jeff, we have just a little bit of time. We're going to have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. But just in a couple of moments, what are your thoughts about what's going on today? That's what happened before, but what's going on today with our entrepreneurial community?
Well, the community is doing well. As you said earlier, everybody's on edge, and there are businesses that are looking to try to do some bigger things, and they're really going to have to make some smart investments because we still don't know what the administration is going to do. There's some good programs, quite frankly, that are out there for us. The ERTC tax credit, the employee retention tax credit. There's something you can go look on the C-Suite Network site, by the way. We've got it right up there. We've got a new program that we put out so people can get back up to $26,000 per employee if you got W-2 employees. That's 5 out of 6 CEOs don't even know you can get that. But, you're going to need every bit of capital you can get to be able to grow the business, because during COVID, as you said, some of them took it away and made it even tougher for them to get that capital. So I think everybody's optimistic, but to some extent you're a little guarded. You want it, but you want to wait and see. And so I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit more guarded about stepping forward.
Hey, Jeff, I think you're right. And what is that again? I'm one of the 5 of the 6 CEOs that don't know this.
Yeah.
What's that called?
It's called the ERTC, and if you go to c-suitenetwork.com, you can go to C-Suite, click on Partners. We've got a C-Suite tax program, and it's just a program. You go in there, click on there, figure out if you're eligible. But almost every employer is eligible for a $24,000 to $26,000, I think it is, per employee tax credit. You get back. You've already paid it. They'll send you a check back in the next 6 months. If you're eligible, you fill out the paperwork, file it, and within 6 months, you're going to get that money back. Our business is getting like $400,000 back. And that's just a fantastic. Exactly.
We just picked up 14 affiliates.
I have
now that Jeff said that.
I have 500 employees, man. I can't wait to. I'm going to go to your website now and let Rich finish the show. But hey, look, we got to take a quick break.
Go ahead.
We're going to be right back, folks. Jeffery Hayzlett, chairman of the C-Suite Networks. He's with us. Stay with us. Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman, and we are together with Jeffery Hayzlett, who is the chairman of the C-Suite Network. He's an author. He's done a whole lot of incredible things. Chief Marketing Officer previously at Kodak. He's on a number of boards, including DocuSign, which I know a lot of us use. Great software. But hey, Jeffrey, so, where do you see things going, with the midterms? And, there's been a lot of discussion about that and, what's going on in our country today. And it's a real train wreck. I mean, if you look at the oh my goodness, I could go on and on and on about, what you see culturally going on in this country. And
pick any economic in the country, we got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, wherever it is.
Anywhere.
And it's so sad. It's so sad. You see what's going on internationally with our country, what's happening, in Europe right now, what China could be thinking about to do with Taiwan. I mean, so where do you see the midterms? Is there going to be a reset? And how fundamentally important is that?
Oh, it's going to be a big thing for everybody, Main Street to Wall Street. And I think it's going to swing back a little bit more Republican this time. And I think because people want to see a little bit more balance in what's going on out there. And, and we're faced with some fairly big issues. You and I just talked taxes, where we're all worried about higher taxes to pay for a lot of these programs we got. We're all worried about, the access to capital. But let's also look like what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. We got a lot of tech stuff that comes out of Ukraine, but more importantly, got 15% of our wheat comes out of there. So food shortages. Again, we've got supply problems. I mean, these are the things that affect us every single day, that every business looks at and says, we got to get some leadership in Washington. We got to get some leadership in state government that can help us solve the real problems, which is the supply chain and getting stuff boosted to go a little bit faster.
We actually have a soundbite for that we can address if you want to do that. Luke, why don't you take a look at number 13? Can you gear that up? And let's just take a listen to that for a sec.
If you take essentially one of the top wheat-growing regions out of production for a year, that's going to have a ripple effect, substantial ripple effect.
Known as Europe's breadbasket, Ukraine, along with Russia, are two of the world's 5 leading exporters of wheat. Together, they produce 25% of the global supply.
So that's pretty significant. I mean, we think of America as the world's breadbasket, but but the Ukraine is right up there too. So maybe the U.S. is secure, but Europe and other parts of the world, if they lose their food supply in the Ukraine, that has to be catastrophic.
Jeff, think about this. And here we have an energy problem that we're talking about, and that's on the forefront of everybody's mind. So that affects everything. That's the worst and most insidious, tax you can have is inflation, because it's creating an inflated environment for other products, because everything gets delivered. You couple that along with, the bread baskets of the world. And believe it or not, Russia was way up there, number one. We were number two. Ukrainian was number 5. And when you start playing with that, we're this is sort of like, George Clooney, the perfect storm. This is the perfect storm for a lot of people to get into a lot of trouble. And this is when you need some really strong leadership, as we're talking about as well, to get us out of that and see us through it. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, let's imagine that we're going to lose the 15% that just Ukraine does. Now, let's take aside what Russia does. But we just mentioned something that's real important that affects the output of all of the wheat and corn and barley and beans and everything that we do. I'm from South Dakota, all right? And that's all we do. Our number one thing in the state is agriculture and businesses tied to agriculture. We've just increased the gas prices by XXX, and the impact, there's going to be farmers who will not be able to put crops in the ground because they won't be able to afford the gas. They won't be able to afford the gas that goes in those $1 million tractors that they have to buy to be able to go out and plant, to fertilize, to till, to weed, and then go back and have to harvest that at some other time. The amount of capital that they need, they're small businesses. They can't afford that. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Is from South Dakota, I mean, what are you seeing the prices in the commodity markets? I mean, I would imagine, I haven't been following that, but I mean, of course, we've all been following oil. But what's been happening with grains and wheat and so forth?
It's going to keep going up. You're going to keep seeing it go up and up and up. And then part of it is that fuel prices. Then, not to mention, most people don't know this, but a lot of the fertilizers that we use comes from Russia.
Yeah. And it comes from petroleum, which comes from petroleum.
But Jeffrey, pull back for a second. Not even look at the individual countries. Just look at our policies. It comes from fossil fuels. It's hydrocarbons. So when you have because I lived in farm country too, but only for 7 years. They didn't grow up in it. But the point of the matter is, we had a farmer on just a few weeks ago with a sound. Remember? Yes. He was talking about, hey, listen, guys, by this summer, you're going to see double, tripling in prices of food. Why? Because he couldn't get hydrocarbons, because he couldn't get nitrogen. Because when he's planting, he needs to have the fertilizer to do, as Jeffrey just pointed out. And he's saying, even if you turn the oil on right now, this is 3 weeks ago, right now, it's not going to do anything, because I'm planting in a few weeks. I'm planting. It's too late. It's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
breaks my heart.
Right now. My brother-in-law plants about 300 or 400 acres. And I haven't called him yet, but I am going to do this after this call. And I'm going to just say, hey, Troy, tell me what your gas bill is going to be. What do you anticipate that to be? And it's going to be horrendous. And you could buy a house for what most of these guys have to pay for in fuel.
I'm telling you, wait a minute. There was a soundbite, Jeffrey. I have the soundbite. There was a guy, I swear to God, I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to list it and I'm going to send it. And better yet, we'll play it next week. The guy said he just put his mortgage payment into his truck.
So,
exactly right.
Hey, Jeffrey, unfortunately, we're going to have to do a hard stop here. We really appreciate you being on the show. Jeffery.
My pleasure.
Hazlett, the chairman of the C-Suite Network. Jeffrey, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much. And don't forget, go out there and apply for that ERTC.
Hey, I'm all over this. You better believe
We're going to go to C-Suite. That's where we're going to go.
Thanks a lot, Jeffrey. Hey, folks, stay with us. We have Elle Reynolds coming on from the Federalist. Still a lot more to talk about. Stay with us.
Promoting American industry. This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
We are delighted you're with us today, and welcome back to the show. We have a terrific show. We've had an outrageous conversation with Jeffery Hayzlett for the last couple of segments, and we're very excited right now to be able to talk about something that's affecting everybody, Neil, and that's inflation. It's the budget. that, Biden's been proposing, which is going to make it even worse. And with us today is Elle Reynolds. She's the assistant editor at the Federalist. And of course, we have great friends at the Federalist. And over the years, we've had excellent guests come on the show, and we have a lot of respect for them. And Elle is going to help us, navigate through the corridors of what's happening with inflation, what it really means, why we're all hurting, and is there any hope? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? I'm not so sure about that right now. But Elle, welcome to Made in America.
Hi, Rich and Neil. Thanks so much for having me.
We're delighted to have you here. So this is something that's everyone's, really concerned about this. We were just discussing that it just seems like, Elle, that a lot of people right now, more so than many, many years, are on edge. They're really wondering how they're going to survive. A lot of people, Neil and Elle, are, they're going month to month. They're going paycheck to paycheck because expenses that they never counted on in their budget have gone so out of whack, whether it's going to be fuel, whether it's going to be groceries, actually anything, furniture, it's going to be, the ability to travel, the ability to, do things with your company, the ability to do anything, because it seems to cut across, agnostically to everybody. Elle, so what do you say about this? I mean, what's the reality of what's going on right now? And then we're going to quickly get into maybe, what Biden's new budget is, because that doesn't seem to help the situation at all.
Sure. So the inflation numbers for the month of March are about to come out as we are about to go into April. But just looking at February's numbers, we saw year over year, so from February 2021 to February 2022, 7.9% inflation, which is, I believe, like a 40-year high. And so, most Americans will hear that and know it's high, but maybe, 7.9, 8, it's a single-digit number. That doesn't sound that big, right? So what I did was I broke down what the average annual wage an American worker makes might be, and then kind of broke down, well, what's 8% of that? How much value is your money really losing? They say inflation is a tax on the middle class, and that's absolutely true. So the average American worker earned a little bit over $53,000 in the year 2020, according to the Social Security Administration. So if you take 7.9%, the year-over-year inflation, you have a value loss of more than $4,200. So that's the equivalent of your salary taking a $4,200 cut, which is double the average raise that Americans are expected to get this year. So even if you get a raise, great, you're still in the hole for thousands of dollars thanks to inflation caused by these crazy spending policies.
Well, Elle, I would even go even a step further, because if you recall that the whole supply chain crisis and the cost of shipping and freight and so forth, and the cost of oil and fuel and so forth, which so much of our economy is based on, really started to spike in, say, the July-August timeframe, right? So if you're looking at a trailing 12 months in February, the big increases really started to take in August. It'd be really interesting to kind of take the last 6 months and then double that, and then that would, I think, be the inflation that we're experiencing, because I think it's much higher than 7 to 8%, and therefore those numbers on that $53,000 salary is even much greater. And I would suggest significantly greater, if not close to being double, right? Because the first 6 months of the trailing 12, it was pretty modest as far as, what the cost increases were. It's really the last 6 months when things went haywire.
Exactly. That's a great point. And on that note, the Labor Department actually breaks down not just the overall monetary inflation, but the inflation of specific goods. And like you said, one of those goods is gasoline. The cost of fuel oil for that same February to February time period jumped 43.6%, which is insanely high. And we saw similar jumps in like the price of housing for Americans. According to another analysis from Redfin, there was a 15% increase in rent, and then a 31% jump in homebuyers' monthly mortgage rates. So absolutely.
And Elle, I'd like to add too, because I'm a manufacturer and I manufacture appliances, and many of them right here in the United States. And we buy a lot of steel. We buy a lot of stainless steel. In the last 60 days, I'm talking 60 days, the cost of stainless steel has gone up 35%. You have nickel, you have chromium, there's some important metals in stainless steel because the metal prices are going up because it costs, a lot of it is the production of steel, requires a lot of energy. And can you imagine, so you want to go buy an appliance now, the raw materials, the inputs going into these appliances now, and just the things that you need, basic things that you need for your home to prepare foods and so forth, is going through the roof. So, I mean, it's just like everywhere. It's just like everywhere. Just pick any part of our economy and you see these crazy increases.
Well, you know what?
Well, that's right.
Hang on for a second, Elle, because I want to play this one quick soundbite and get your response to it, because it addresses exactly what we're talking about. Let's go with number one.
This year, according to a new estimate, rising inflation will cost the average American family $3,500 in extra post-tax income. That's a disaster. You will radically change the way you live. Your standard of living will plummet.
So whether it's $4,200 or $3,500,
exactly.
It's a lot of money. I think Tucker Carlson kind of summed it up. It's a disaster. It's a regressive tax, right? Elle, it means that the poorest of the poor are paying this
suffer
tax.
The most. Exactly.
Right? You always hear the progressives and the socialists or whoever they are calling about taxes. You got to tax the wealthy. You got to tax the fat cats. They don't pay their share. They don't pay their share. When their inflation is actually taxing those who could afford it least, the ones that ostensibly that they're supposed to be fighting for. Right? And it's the folks that really, really can't afford to pay it are the ones that's getting
they hurt the most
by the Biden inflation.
Elle, 30 seconds. We're going to give it to you.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's not just these crazy spending bills that they're proposing. It's also, like you mentioned, the price of gas. Well, it takes gas and semi-trucks to move goods around the country. So when the price of gas goes up, the price of everything for the American consumer goes up. And that's something that Joe Biden has made worse by canceling things like the Keystone XL pipeline and canceling or pausing leases on federal lands for oil drilling. So absolutely, Biden has been contributing to this. And with the budget, it looks like he's trying to make it even worse.
Well, it appears that way. It also, and then recently this week, he just came out with his new idea that he's going to send money. He's going to send checks to homes to folks who have cars and drive cars. So he's going to release 1 million gallons from the emergency petroleum reserves a day, and then he's going to send checks. How he's going to do this, I have no idea. He's going to send checks to homeowners, and not homeowners, to folks who have cars registered, to compensate them. Rather than let the free market handle it, let us open up the spigots, get the oil flowing again, get our petroleum products working again, and we can actually, economically get our way out of this without costing the government anything. Let the people in the free market do it. Elle, 10 seconds.
Well, those handouts are what helped cause this inflation in the first place under COVID. But giving money to car owners and people who don't have cars, maybe bike to work, those are the people this is going to hurt the most, and they're not getting handouts.
I don't know. Why am I thinking of, clunkers? You remember that program under Obama? That went like nowhere. Yeah. Even Steve Ratner didn't like it. The cars are. Anyway, Elle, thanks so much for being on Made in America. Come back again soon. We really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you all for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. We have so much more to talk about. Oh, my God. Just open up your window. You'll see it all. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, we're talking about, just inflation in general and energy and the role of energy in inflation and what should we do about it and what could we do about it. Time was, and I'm not talking about a long time ago, America was an energy independent country. It means that we produced all the energy we needed. In fact, it's even better than that. We were an energy exporting country.
That's right.
We had a surplus of energy after we had all our reserves and everything we needed in this country. And
$1.83 for gasoline in some states.
Yeah, I mean, it was less than $2. It was amazing. And, you know, you go back, and I'm not talking about a long time ago. I mean, I'm talking about a couple of years ago. And America was a very different place. And that's because we turned loose the American entrepreneurial spirit.
That's right.
Hey, look, you know, a lot of, I don't think that people realize this, is a lot of the American energy technology, the ingenuity, a lot of the wells, the drilling, the support services, the rigs, everything that goes into it, the manufacturing is entrepreneurially owned. Tons and tons of small businesses make up our energy industry. Yes, there's big companies, but there's so many more small companies that are out there. And look what they did for America, and look what they could do for America. And it's just psychology to me, really, Rich, is that if the president said, we're going to turn loose the American spirit and we're going to solve this energy crisis, we're going to bring down energy prices, we're going to help our allies, we're going to take our adversaries and hit them across the head with a baseball bat because they're not going to hold us hostage because of the energy needs, and they think they're the only one who can provide it to us and our allies are getting all spooked. They don't know what to do, so they're making a deal with the devil. We could fix all that.
Well, Trump warned about that.
Trump loose the American spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit that is so alive within our energy segment. And it's just like, if you just said that statement, doesn't matter if it takes 6 months, a year, whatever, everybody's now breathing a sigh of relief. Yes, we have this. We got this. We're going to fix this. The psychology of that move would be absolutely enormous in this tumultuous time when everybody is sitting on pins and needles.
Well, it's sort of like in World War I when George George M. Cohan wrote Over There. And he said, the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming. We were drumming everywhere. And the Europeans thought we were going to come and save the day, which in a way we did. And then we did it again in World War II, which made us a super leader in the world. But why don't we listen to the soundbite? It's Vice President Pence's ex-chief of staff. And he has Mark Short. He has a very interesting statement to make regarding, Republicans are blaming the Dems for this debacle. Let's take a listen.
Well, John, we think it's going to be a seminal issue this year. The reality is that there's nothing that's going to change the inflation of gas prices. There's nothing this administration is going to do. There's nothing they're going to do that's going to change the dynamic we're facing. In fact, anticipation is that you'll continue to see gas prices just continue to go up. So I think for the average American who's facing inflation at home, hard to put groceries on the table, food on the table, and the reality is they're driving 30 miles to work each way, this is going to be a big issue.
But, Rich, my point is it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't. None of this had to be. The invasion of the Ukraine didn't have to be. But if you think about it, just like Reagan bankrupted Russia and ended the USSR, we could, without a bullet, bankrupt Russia, get rid of Putin. There would be regime change on their side. We don't have to do it. They'll do it. And completely usurp all that economy that they had, because their economy is falling apart right now. All we have to do is use the leverage, the political leverage of hydrocarbons. We take over that business. We export. We take, and we're a much safer group of people to do it with. And if you really care about the green environment and all that stuff, if you want to get into that, we have the cleanest fuel in the world. Couldn't we do that? Wouldn't that make sense? Instead of sending checks, instead of using 1 million barrels of oil a day from the strategic reserves, which, by the way, we paid $40 a barrel for, and now we're going to pay $115 a barrel for. I mean, none of this makes sense, Neil. None of it.
Well, Rich, well said. Hey, folks, we're going to be back here just in a moment. We're having a great time, great guests, great show. Stick with us. Still a lot more to talk about. Welcome back to Made in America. We're having a great time here today. Lots to talk about. Boy, oh boy, is there a lot to talk about. But, Yeah. Hey, look, Rich, we've been through thick and thin together, and we've dealt with all kinds of crises. We've had all kinds of folks
14 years
at a very, very difficult moments in our country.
Yep.
And somehow we've always got through. We've got through.
Because Americans are resilient.
I remember the first 2 years of the Obama administration. What had that been? At 2008, 2000 to 2010, when they lost 63 seats in the midterms. That shellacking that they got, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, things really changed. I mean, they fundamentally changed at that point.
Well, I hope they do this year.
In a very big way. And then from there, fortunately, there was gridlock, and the whole Obama agenda was essentially shut down for the next 6 years.
Which was good.
Which was good because, American democracy likes gridlock. They do. Because, you get these people like they have right now on the Democrat side, the progressives that are keep taking America someplace it doesn't want to go. I mean, but yet they still say, let's put the pedal down here. Let's double down. America's rejecting our agenda, but let's just go after it much more aggressively. Let's blow up the Constitution. Let's blow up congressional decency and dignity and the way that our Congress has worked over the years and years, and let's just blow it up because we can, and let's enact a policy, a direction of this country that is so wrong. And fortunately, Rich, I just see them losing their grip. And as they lose their grip, I'm talking about the progressives right now, they start to really go haywire, right?
And you're going to see that.
And you see it already.
Yeah.
You see it already.
No question.
And because they're losing their grip.
And they're going to get vicious. Because that's what they do.
This is a gasp right now as they lose their grip. But hey, there's this soundbite, Rich, that you had found that was very good.
Senator Johnson.
A very great senator. And he had this to say this week.
Everybody should be concerned about, for example, Saudi Arabia talking to China about trading their oil in the yuan rather than the U.S. dollar.
Sure.
At some point in time, if this continues, world creditors are going to look at the United States as not a very good credit risk. If we ever lose our position as the world's reserve currency, interest rates are going to go to just basically world rates, and we are going to be in a heap of trouble.
So, Rich, why in the world would people around the world want to keep their wealth, their hard-earned dollars, in the American dollar if this country is going off the rails in this ultra-left direction? Who in the world would want to invest in our currency if we were racing towards the bottom? If we were racing towards socialism, who in the world, or communism, or whatever they call it, wokeism, communism, socialism, whatever it is, it's all three.
You might as well throw Marxism.
They're all in there.
Get them all.
And yet, America's going to attract the world's wealth, and people are going to want to invest in America as a safe haven. What in the world are they thinking about? Hey, Senator Johnson's not wrong. It could be the Chinese yuan that now becomes the world's reserve currency because America's gone so wacky.
That's right.
Who would want to invest in this country?
Well, not only that, it's proposed this week. The president proposed a billionaires tax. It's attacking the billionaires of this country. So with a 20% tax, it's really horrible that he would do this, because he's also proposing that, gains that you haven't realized yet. In other words, your real estate appreciates, your company appreciates, but you're not making that money yet. It doesn't exist. It's only on paper. They want to tax that, which is it's sort of like a shadow economy. So that lets you know that what type of a country is this, that the more successful you are, the more that you can build, and in our case, what we talk about, build a company, have jobs and things like that, which is the name of the game of the American dream. We're going to kind of shut that down in a way because we're going to tax you. We're going to punish you. We're going to be punitive. But let's listen to Russ Vought, the former budget director for Trump, on what this whole taxing really means.
The challenge with these wealth taxes that they don't work is that the wealthy then flee and find ways not to pay it. And countries that have done this have discarded these plans because they don't bring in the money that the policymakers think it, and they also lead to people leaving their country. And so that's even this administration is only assuming that they're going to get about $360 billion from this. And so, again, this is bad policy. It could be unconstitutional policy, but the reality is that this is being done as a head fake to the American people to suggest that they're actually concerned about the deficit.
Well, there you go. And if you take that together with Senator Johnson about these ultra-left policies about destroying our currency and anybody who wants to invest in it, and B,
how about it just wants to
having
work and make a
all of our
living?
wealth leave this country to where
Work and
no
make
one
a
wants
living.
to invest, it's a recipe for disaster. But we're not going to let that happen, folks. We are optimists. It isn't going to happen. We here at Made in America are out there fighting. We're fighting for you every day. So join us again next weekend when we do another adventure together and fight for the American dream.